Hey everybody, welcome. We are the American Sci-Fi Fantasy Media Track, and we're going to start spreading our panels throughout the year now. I had a lot of good comments from the discussions on Discord this year, and got a feeling that everybody kind of wanted to do more of these season review panels during the year, and then we will focus more on topics and things throughout when we're at the con, subjects, and kind of delve into different things. So that's what we're going to try to do. So we are doing our first one of these, and we're going to talk about season 2 of The Boys that ended about 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, something like that. And we have some special guests with us tonight. In case you didn't know, I'm Kelly Harkins. I'm the director of the track. So if you have any suggestions or thoughts for next year or panels that we can do during the year, let me know. So, all right, gentlemen, you want to introduce yourselves too?
You go first.
Well, thank you, Mark. So yes, my name is Daviar Snipes. Pleasure to be here. Actor with the Alliance Theater, Peabody Award-winning voice actor. So I do stage, theater, and voice. And yeah, I've been lucky enough to work on BET, NPR, and you can always catch me on stage somewhere around Atlanta.
Cool. Mark Pyle. I'm an indie filmmaker. I do some adjunct professor teaching for like script analysis and film production. And I'm about ready to get my MFA done just in a few months here. Can't wait. So I'll start being an author next year too in urban fantasy. And yeah, I love superheroes since I can remember reading anything, and I love The Boys.
And we'll probably have a latecomer join us who had some computer problems, but we will get there when we get there. So, yeah, I mean, I think we all like superheroes. I mean, that's kind of a truism. But, of course, the way The Boys do superheroes, a little different. And now that we've gone into season 2, what are your kind of just thoughts? Did you like season 2? Did you not like season 2?
Take it, Mark. You started this off.
Oh, yeah, I love season 2. I thought it was well developed. I thought it grew out of the storylines from season 1 really well. Kept everything. I think there's always some memorable scenes in every episode. I know it was unpopular by some people, but I liked the staggered release schedule, and I liked the behind the scenes episodes. It was really nice as a fan to have that, and I was kind of sad when it was over. I was like, oh, I really wish there was more episodes so I can watch more weeks of this. So I think it went in some really great directions and it's a really good season.
Well, I mean, because that's fascinating, because I think this staggered release is a whole subject unto itself. Because I definitely had issues with that personally. But yes, I really liked season 2. I loved season 1. I really liked season 2. I think the strongest thing about the show is still its characters and the actors who play the characters. I think each character had a growth this year in a different way that was very unique to who they were and what their journey was, and that was fascinating to watch. And I think the actors were just so fantastic in portraying those arcs. We'll probably get into it later, I'm sure, but I mean, one of the biggest issues I had for me was the villain of the season, or who was the villain of the season, or which villain we should be focusing on. But I thought overall the core of the show, which is these characters that we're following, is still intact and still very strong.
I tend to agree with both of you, honestly. Which is kind of odd. Of course, season 1 was great, and I do think you see, as normal for actors, as they get settled and more comfortable with the roles, there's a confidence that comes through, even if they're nervous characters. There's a little more. They are easier in the roles in that sense, and I think that came through. There were some. I mean, I loved it. But I do think there were some plots that they developed and then it felt like they dropped. But we'll kind of talk on some of those things as we'll get to that point. So in some ways, yes, some ways, I'm like, but wait. So in that sense, I'm kind of chiming in with that aspect of it. I do think as far as the streaming aspect, I have mixed feelings about it. I liked it because if I binge too much, I lose a lot of detail. But it would be nice to have it maybe in bunches rather than single. So, All right, our last person is here. Let me bring him in here. So,
special guest entrance.
Yeah.
Oh.
So now we have our musician here. Mike, we were actually just, if you want to introduce yourself and then give us kind of what your thoughts were on this new season.
Oh, sure. It's the timing is actually perfect. I'm Mike Faber, Earth Station 1 podcast. And we basically just talked this last week about Boys Season 2. So this is perfect timing. And the show is actually going live as we speak right now. So this is perfect. So your timing is awesome, Kelly. You know, so when you said, do you want to be on it? And it's like, oh God, yes, I want to be on this.
So what do you think about season 2, Mike?
Season 2 was the next step up from the first season. It basically you had these characters who were already now established. You didn't have to have an origin story or, you know, tell how all these people came about. And now you got to be able to see these characters who have all relationships and how they basically came, you know, had to interact with each other, and each one in their own way trying to establish their place, especially in the boys. And it was interesting because you had Huey trying to basically run it from his point of view, where Butcher was coming in, you know, wasn't even in the first episode. And so, you know, basically Huey was trying to fill the void and everything. And then in the 7, you had Annie basically, you know, trying to work against them, the 7. And you had then the new introduction of Stormfront, which was even a bigger thing because it's a completely different different character from the comics, which is interesting. Well, different as in she's more modernized, she's now, you know, you think she's the hip, you know, basically person who knows all about social media, all about, you know, how to get the, you know, the popularity out there with the memes and everything like that. But she has a long history, which ties right into her character in the comics, which is a he in the comics, which is kind of really interesting.
Well, actually, that kind of does. I was kind of hesitant which order to do this in, but now since Marks, I know, has done some catch up online, Dav and I have not read the graphic novel. So between you two, if you want to give a little bit of insights, not like spoilers, of course, but in the sense of how you feel like it's matched what the comics have done, how they've departed from what the comics have done, just, you know, kind of your thoughts on good choices, bad choices, things like that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Stormfront and Homelander didn't hook up in the comic books.
Well, you did have Homelander hook up with Soldier Boy, who we're going to meet in season 3 in the comics. So, you know, basically Stormfront in the comics, and this is not a spoiler, is male. And he in the comics is known, he's a Nazi. He is, you know, surviving from World War II that he's gone all the way through. And he basically meets this kind of the same fate that she met in this season, which is kind of interesting. But he gets killed in the comics by Love Sausage, by Frenchie, by Miko, and, you know, it's interesting because it's a representation of the Allied powers going up against the Nazis and everything in the comics. Because in the comics, Love Sausage, who we got to meet very intimately in the TV series this year, you got to basically played a Russian superhero in the comics, and he befriended actually Huey in the comics, and it was just really interesting to see and everything.
Yeah, because in the comic books, Homelander doesn't have a kid, and Butcher's wife didn't survive. There wasn't that twist that we
No.
have in season 1.
Do you think the departures are good choices at this point?
Yes, completely. Basically, the only thing now that the show has in common with the comics are the names of the characters.
That
And then-
often happens, and that's
Yeah.
not necessarily a bad thing.
Exactly. And it's nice that they do that. Walking Dead had to do that for it to grow and to become a truth series. The Boys had to do it too. They kept the first season fairly close. They changed it in some ways and everything. But, the second season, nothing that happened other than the character named Stormfront was the same. There wasn't anything with Liberty Bell. There wasn't anything with, the thing about Miko's sister or brother coming in and the super terrorists, the whole thing with that was, and then of course Butcher and the kid and the wife, nothing.
Yeah,
Nothing at all.
Lamplighter was very different too. Like he was like some kind of zombie thing or something, right?
Well, yeah, because Lamplighter did kill the kids like in the comic, but basically the boys ended up killing Lamplighter for what he did. And here he was, working at the asylum and, testing on, with the V checking that out. And it was interesting that they had the character Iceman play the pyro.
That was very meta. Yeah, I figured we would talk about that as we kind of get into it. Dav, go ahead.
And thanks for bringing that up, Mike and Marks, because I think, having not read the graphic novel, like that is one of the reasons why, Kelly and I was talking about this offline, that if I haven't already read it, I don't like to read it once I start watching the show, because I like that they are basically two different entities. I like
it is two.
Yeah, the comic has its
good.
story, and then the TV show has its own direction that it's going with its characters. So you can have Lamplighter with an entirely different story that works within the context of what they're doing on Amazon, and then you can get this whole other separate thing that you don't have to be comparing to over here in the comic. So I appreciate you all bringing that up, and that's good to hear.
It's interesting. I do recommend reading the comics, but you need a really strong stomach to read the comics too. I do want that. Yeah. So yeah,
even more extreme.
The things that that happens in the comics. I don't even know if they could show even on Amazon without a XXX.
Wow, I've heard that. Wow.
Yeah. But that's Garth Ennis, and because that's the writer of the comic, and he created this basically the extremes of the Marvel and DC universe and everything. So it's and he took it to the extremes in the comics, and a lot of people don't like his writing because of that and everything. But I love what they did, and I have a question for each one of you. Anyone want a Fresca?
Well done. I will not be converted to your cult. Sorry, Mike.
No.
Although we are going to touch on that too later. So
I'm just going to have my almond joy over here.
So what, when you think about this past season, if you were going to pick whether it's the character themselves or the story this season, and we'll touch on arcs a little bit later, but what characters struck you the most this season and why?
I'm going to give it. From my opening point of the characters being the strongest thing about the show, this is such a difficult question, but I think I will go with Starlight. Because one, I think Erin Moriarty gives a fantastic performance in just the arc of the character, especially where she begins in season 1. From the rural America Christian girl with the I'm just doing this for the right reasons, to be to this point in season 2 where she can kill a man and not truly have remorse for it, because in that moment it was what she had to do. And I think her arc is so cemented where in the first episode, when she has this great moment where she's derobing the costume and she takes out the hair extensions, she takes off the revealing costume, and it's just her and her bare self standing in front of the mirror and just kind of just contemplating on who she is and where has she come. And I think that ties in so well to where her character goes by the end of season 2. So hats off to that growth to her.
Oh, very much so. And if you look at her in the final scene of season 2 when, basically Homelander's been put into his place and everything. And she's back in her original costume.
Outfit,
How
yes.
happy and confident she
Yep.
looks there and everything. It's awesome. It
Yeah.
is really, really, it was great how they did that. And she did go through a good arc. For me, I have to think my home run characters in this season are Frenchie and Kimco. The building of the relationship there, and what him wanting to help her. But what Frenchie goes to, it, like the first season, it seemed like Huey was the soul of the group. It seemed like this season it was Frenchie. And and then you also find out what his backstory is and everything like that in this season. And he, none of these guys are perfect or anything. When he built that gas bomb and it didn't go off, it was just awesome. The look on his face, it was great.
I said I thought it could work. Yeah, he was fantastic.
Yeah, because his story really wound in because it brought in the whole side with Lamplighter as well, and kind of that whole story. And so
exactly. Frenchie wanted to. The look on his face when he found out that Lamplighter was at the asylum, was working there, he looked like he wanted to tear him apart,
Yeah,
and everything, because that's his worst. That was his biggest regret in life,
Yeah, I also thought Mother's Milk got some good moments too, where we found more of his backstory and got this obsessive compulsive, element to him too, and added a little more depth to him.
Oh God.
I also liked, even though she didn't survive, but I liked the wife, Butcher's wife, Becca. Yeah, I like that actress quite a bit. Everything she's in, I enjoy, and I liked her as Patty Spivot on The Flash. So, I thought she did a good job for her character, and it's very heartbreaking what happened to her in the end.
Well, I couldn't think of anything else they could have done with her, though.
Yeah.
Truthfully, it would have been tough to do anything with her, and for Butcher to go on, I think she had to die almost and everything. And I'm glad, and the way because there was no way in heck that Butcher was going to raise that kid.
No.
And everything.
No.
And the look on her face when she realized that they were not going to have the happy ending, the three of them living together and everything, and how much Butcher hated the soups, as he calls them. It's interesting, the look on her face, and she says, "Oh, I made a mistake here. Basically, we can't be together. This kid is my kid, but I love you. But this kid is more important to the world," type thing.
I think it helped add dimension to Butcher too, because him finding out she wasn't really dead changed his whole motivation, changed his whole worldview of everything. And then this season with him accepting that maybe her child should not die or be killed or whatever, left to die, and also realizing that that we also had Starlight as a good person too, and that he made that choice not to shoot her, for example, and decided to work with her. I think that added a little bit of depth to his character, so he's not just so like one note, like gotta kill all the soups, because they killed my wife, and that can be kind of.
But the look on his face when he picked up that tire iron, I thought he was gonna. Was he gonna bash in the kid's head? Was he going to try at least? You weren't sure what Butcher was going to do. And, then, when he turned to Homelander, it's like, you really think you're going to beat Homelander with that tire iron?
I like it.
Yeah, that choice, you've seen that decision on it's such a game changer for Butcher. That decision that, okay, if I accept this view that my wife has, who I trust, who I love, and just that meant, I honestly will say I was kind of hesitant that, like you said, I didn't know whether he was going to make the right choice.
Right.
Because the way Carl Urban plays him, I could easily see him not. But yeah, he does. So I was like, holy cow. Yeah.
Well, and I think that's what I was expecting, because I think I mean, for me, the resolution of that was a little quick, only because it's so established what Butcher has been going through these 8 years since he lost his wife, that his entire existence is based on the revenge of avenging what happened to her, and then to A, find out that she's still alive, and to B, have a chance to get back with her, and C, have that not come to fruition because she's going to choose the soup over him. I actually felt it was a result a little too quickly for me. Like I almost felt that that would have been even more devastating for him, and maybe could have pushed him to an even darker place, if you can imagine that. So that was the only thing that kind of hit that about that for me.
No, I could totally see that. And, you know, you actually maybe might see that Butcher might have a heart, especially, having him turning the kid over to the CIA and
Mm.
to, his contact there. And it's just like, and I loved, what do we call everybody that we don't, that we don't like? And it was just awesome. The reactions and everything was awesome. One of the other characters I think made huge strides this season has to be Maeve. Maeve was just amazing. And, for her, being outed by Homelander on national TV, oh
Mm.
my God,
Mhm.
and it's just like, it was awesome. You know, she was torn between having the relationship as it was and, being a superhero. She tried walking away from it and she realized she couldn't. And then it being forced right into her face and the company running with it, all the
Mm.
LGBT, it's like, oh, let's do this. And she didn't want that. Nobody wants
The
that,
commercial they made her
Yeah.
shoot. Oh my
Yeah.
God.
Yeah.
Yeah, and really, they did not do her a lot of justice in first season.
Mm.
So, I mean, except for this sequence on the airplane, she didn't get a lot of play, except other than being kind of under Homelander's thumb. So, I was really glad to see, them allowing her to step out and kind of growing that as for the actress too, to really be able
Oh,
to.
yeah.
And then, of course, at the end, it felt kind of convenient to have her suddenly show up.
You
A
think
little
that?
Deus Ex Machina.
A little bit?
But it was so it was great. It was such a takeoff of the Avengers Endgame scene
Yeah.
where, the girls are doing it and everything. It was
Yeah, I
so,
did love the girl fight.
oh, it was awesome. And, all of them going and ganging up on, Stormfront was just awesome. And I think the actress's name was Isaiah Cash, the woman who played Stormfront, and she was amazing. She was awesome.
Mhm.
And because you never knew what was going on behind those eyes, but there was a darkness there, and she played it so well
I
and
want to
everything.
give also. We've been talking about Maeve a little bit, and since, as Kelly rightly pointed out, that she was a little undershadowed in the first season, I want to give her even more props for season 2. Like, she had one of my favorite scenes in the entire series so far, when I forget which episode, but when she's just so broken by everything, and the fabulous Colby Menifee comes in, and she's in, and Maeve is in the room with the two guys on the bed, and just completely just like giving in to this moment of just self depression, and just loss. And when she just says, when she tells Ashley to just give me this moment where I can just forget, or just kind of not think about who I am and how much I've screwed up. That to me was one of the most well acted, most heartfelt moments in the entire series. So
That
shout out to
that
her.
was kind of right out of the comics too, because Maeve in the comics is a drunk basically, and she basically tries to bury everything that she's seen and done behind alcohol, and she's very depraved, sleeping with whatever she can or whoever she can. And that scene that you were just mentioning, D, was right out of the comic. It was so well done.
Well, and I think it plays well to that whole, people like to label people. And it was really great for Voight to be like, hey, now we can pigeonhole Maeve and she can be our token gay person. But she's like,
Exactly.
I'm not what you're making me either. So I think that they did a good job showing that, we're not necessarily all one thing. And I think that's one of the things the show does really well. Even the good guys have bad moments. The bad guys have good moments. Even Homelander trying to interact with Ryan and, trying to be the good dad. And actually you see Stormfront is the one who's like, what are you letting her do? And he's like, but because he knows how he was raised. So is trying, at least at the beginning, trying to listen to her about the better choices. And of course it doesn't work because it's
Oh my
Homelander.
God. When Homelander pushed the kid off the roof,
Oh, well,
it was just like,
yeah.
Well, and that reminded me so much of like growing up, getting pushed into the deep end of the pool. Okay, you could swim, type thing. And that's exactly what they were trying to do with that. Oh, you got superpowers. Voomp, you could, and he didn't fly because in any superhero movie, like it would be he would fall and then he'd land like 2 inches above the ground or something.
Yeah.
But no, not in the boys. No.
Yeah,
Good thing he was sturdy.
The baby bird out of the nest kind of vibe.
Yeah, exactly. And that was just all. But I felt for the kids so much when they took him to their version of Planet Hollywood, and he was never been around that many people, and his super hearing was just kicking in, and he was hearing everything, and it was so overwhelming with. And there, you actually got a true dad moment from Homelander.
Yeah.
And everything.
But I think the thing about Homelander and Kelly, if you'll remember when we were on the Dragon Con panel when we could actually meet in person, remember those days? For season one,
years ago? No.
Yeah, years ago, man. In season one, I made a comment that Homelander was probably one of the most sympathetic characters on the show. And for me, that again got nailed in this year when you see those dad moments for him, because those dad moments, yeah, he's not a good dad, but that's only because he doesn't know how to be a good dad, but he is trying. Yeah. And the thing is, all he wants is someone to just genuinely just love him for who he is. And so there is a true effort there to connect to his son and give his son what he never had. And that was so displayed in those scenes where he's trying to teach him his powers, because it's not for Homelander's benefit. It's for him to like show his son that these are the things you can do. These are the gifts that you have. So he's trying to give his son those gifts. And I think that was really kind of powerful. And of course, how it's acted by Anthony and just how it's written.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Between that and his love of milk, I mean, he's just a tender soul.
Oh, and the scene with the shape changer. Wow.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. And now this is where I'll actually not quite agree with you, Dad.
Okay, of course.
I think you see some really, the performances from Anthony are amazing as Homelander, honestly. He really brings that duality into play. But this is that old line about, do you forgive someone for their past and how they are now based on the things they've been through previously? I mean, he's a pretty horrible person.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, there is good reason for him to be a horrible person. But, I can kind of see, if nobody ever tells you no, if they give you everything you want, if they put adulation on you, but yet you're raised in this little bubble, you're not necessarily going to come out as a whole person. But does that mean he's a good person? No, I don't think so.
Totally agree with you. And for me, it's like, I don't think, from my perspective, one doesn't excuse the other. It's not that if he's sympathetic, then that means I have to love him. He's clearly a monster and he clearly has to be stopped. But it's kind of like King Kong. You've got to stop the giant monkey from destroying the city. But it's still sympathetic because at the end of the day, from his perspective, I'm just doing what I do. You all are the people who are terrifying me. So, It's that concept.
Well, if you think about it, though, Homelander's favorite person or being is Homelander. He doesn't care for anybody else because nobody else comes close to being the type of the person he is. He's the most powerful. He's the most, his ego is so through the roof. Look at the scene where it was basically Homelander in front of the whole crowd. And in his mind, people were starting to flip him off. People were starting to, oh, superheroes, blah, blah, blah. And you remember and then he basically lasered everybody in the crowd. And you thought, oh my God, he just did that.
Gasped.
Yeah. and I thought literally that he did it. And I was like, because he's capable of it. And that's what he would have done, because he's like a sandwich away from going out of the picnic anyway, basically.
Yeah, he's a time bomb waiting to go
he
off.
is a ticking time bomb completely.
But he's also a Ma and Pa Kent away from being Superman. And to me, that's the thing that that makes him sympathetic, is that you're exactly right. It's not that he is that monster. He is that guy that's capable of all of that destructiveness. But if Madeline Stillwell was still in the picture and maybe would have guided him in a different direction, he could be a completely different person.
He just hadn't killed her.
Yeah, if he just had it,
a little too late by then,
I think it was already too late. He was obsessed with her. He was, for some, that's why he was using his X-ray vision the first season, staring at the wall, but watching her, pump the milk out of her breasts, and that's why he had the shape changer basically look like her, and it was just yeah, you're completely right. He is a Ma and Pa Kent away from being Superman, but he never had that. And that's the thing. This is Superman unhinged. This is Superman being raised in a lab, basically, and, by scientists, and not having anyone care for him, nurture him. He was basically, he was raised by computers and, blips and blops and everything like that. And then look what he was doing in the very final scene on top of the tower. You've heard the rumor saying, basically if you drop a penny from the Empire State Building, you basically can cave someone's brains in. What was he doing from the top of the building? Can you imagine what he was doing on the ground below?
It was shooting out.
Wow, shades of the old Niven story.
Yeah.
And like Shamu, it was okay.
Yeah.
All right. I want to kind of look at some of the story arcs for this season that we've kind of been seeing. We touched a little bit on it, but and of course, you guys brought up that, of course, they delve into the whole Nazi thing in the comics. Do we feel like Nazis are just kind of like the convenient bad guy, and that they, it's like, okay, let's stick a Nazi in there. Everybody hates Nazis,
Well, Vought is the perfect Nazi plan if you think about it, making a master race. And this goes back to Homelander, who is blonde hair and blue-eyed. He is the perfect Nazi soldier, basically.
Which, of course, is what Stormfront brings forward. I've been waiting for you my whole life.
Well, exactly. I almost fully expected her to turn to him and say, "You're my child," or something like that. And, it would have been... Oh, of course, because it would have been one of those moments. But yeah, I fully expected it. But yes, but that's where they tied it into the genetic testing and the whole thing, and that's how they came up with the V. And
then you have somebody like Stan running Voight now, and it kind of separates it out from that. Although, of course, he's still about the money.
It's all about the money to him. And, and now he is, that actor is just somebody you do not ever want to cross, ever. And, basically he ran a deal with Butcher to get the kid, and Butcher completely screwed him on that. by giving the kid to the CIA. So even more reason now for Vought to come after the boys.
Yeah.
Mark, do you want to jump in there? 'Cause I got something, but I didn't want to take it if I saw you were going to speak.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if Vault themselves are actually still on that mission plan, or if Stormfront was doing her own rogue thing, like with a faction of the group. I'm kind of curious to see, how that plays out. So,
Yeah, because for me, to your initial question, Kelly, when it was because again, not having read the graphic comics, just watching the Amazon show, when I saw that she was a Nazi, I literally went, "Oh no!" Because that's such a baseline bad. I mean, why not just give her a mustache so she can twirl it? It's if you're gonna do that, where you're gonna make someone like I'm a Nazi. I mean that's the echelon of the villain. Then at least let her be a more intricate. To your point about she works for a black dude. She has lived through the civil rights movement. She has lived through gay rights. So it's like I want to see a Nazi who's a little bit more meticulous, maybe a little bit more megalomaniacal in like how they think of things, rather than just I'm just going to eradicate. I'm gonna mean mug A-Train as I walk past him. I want it to be more nuanced to what does it mean to be a Nazi trying to gain power in the modern day. And
Well,
so
that gets into the whole thing with the social media, that she was
the memes.
an expert, the memes and everything. Because a lot of, I've learned this because I work in the high tech industry and I've worked for many, many years. A lot of the new technologies that come up and such through the internet is basically the first adapters are a lot of times those fringe groups or the porn industry. And they those two, because they go, what the hell? Let's just,
They got money to burn.
exactly. And, and Stormfront was part of a very fringe group, the very right wing. And, and she was an expert at social media, and whatever, that's how she was able to get her popularity. And they just played it off before they revealed her as the Nazi, that, she was just very social media savvy, that, because you think she's in her early 20s, she's a kid, and, you don't think anything of it. And then, more and more comes out, and you just think, oh, she's just somebody who's able to, control people's opinions and stuff of her, because she has guys working for her and making memes up and, making all these really cool things. And that's how she went to Homelander. Oh, I could do this and help you out. And that was her way to start clawing into with him.
Well, thank you, Kelly.
Well, I was just real quick. I definitely saw that as a take off of playing on the whole Russian interference that we've seen in our lives. I think that was definitely the creator saying, we're going to use this concept and kind of build it in on a very visceral way into the boys as well. So,
see it, going on right now all over social media, over the last 4 or 5 years. Yeah, very much so. And it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, and I think you all are right in that, in regards to like this, how she used the social media for the societal manipulation and to gain her power. I guess I wish they would have held back the reveal of her being the Nazi, maybe till the finale, maybe till I wish there was more. I wish there was more of tact a bit. I keep going back to nuance with it, because
no.
I wanted it to be like, because when we first see her and she's encouraging Starlight, letting Starlight know you can be who you want to be, and I mean she was this empowering persona who you instantly gravitated to. Like, I wish they would have carried that on through the entire season, where you kind of like don't know who she is, but you're kind of falling for her because you love what she's selling. And then to have the reveal maybe later be, oh yeah, by the way, she's a Nazi and this is all part of a grand scheme, I thought would have been like mind melding. So
it would have been great if it was the final scene of the season or something, carry it into the next season. I felt a little bit that the season, since there was only 8 episodes.
Yeah.
It felt kind of rushed at points.
There was a lot in those.
I think it needed
looking
10
at
or so.
plots and everything we had. And
Okay. Yeah, the whole thing with the basically the taking of the religion, as we like to call it.
We're
You
going
know,
to get to that point too. Um,
yeah. So
before
so
we
yeah.
go
So it's pretty cool though.
into the collective, I wanted to bring up that we were talking about Frenchie and Kimiko. We touched a little bit on her story, but the whole bringing in of the foreign terrorist and the whole Shining Light organization,
Well, the
kind
whole
of
thing with her brother. The
yes,
whole thing.
because he was radicalized,
Yeah.
and kind of brings in some of those elements we're seeing too in our world. So, what did you all think? Any thoughts on that storyline?
I would have liked a little more. I think this would have been really good to have like maybe 10 episodes, and then like the first half be focused on some terrorists doing some stuff, wreaking some havoc, and then they can give us the big bad, the true big bad with Stormfront. And that might have been because I was a little bit disappointed because I was like, oh, I was really waiting for all these different terrorists, and like for example, the one that blew himself up or could blow himself up, and or I guess he wasn't technically blowing himself up, but you know what I mean. He's a little suicide bomber thing. Then Black Noir kills him right away.
You mean the terrorist who was coming up with his own marketing plan?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Because they showed him at the end
T-shirts. I loved it.
They showed him at the end of last season, and then he gets killed, right off the bat.
And they definitely built up the whole thing that Homelander was kind of planting these.
Mm-hmm.
And then that was, see, this comes down to my difficulty with this season. They had all these plots, again, with us talking about how short of it. They didn't need to tie up as many of these as they did.
Yeah.
No,
and that's
agreed.
where I got a little disappointed on that. Because, they're hinting a lot about maybe there's more about the Shining Light organization, about them reaching out. But is that tied to Homelander's efforts?
Mm-hmm.
That's a good question. You don't know.
Yeah, because Homelander's playing a dangerous game, because what if he created a villain that was almost as powerful as him or as powerful as him?
But you also have to realize Stormfront is not dead. She's still around. She's she's going to be back. They've already said, that they even said in the show that Stormfront is in a Vought detention center,
it's armed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To Cincinnati or something.
But she's not armed, so it's okay.
Yeah.
Or leg. So
but the weight of her coming back and like in season 3, and now the plan gets to be revealed. We don't get that, and that's what I'm going to be, and that's what I wish. To Kelly, to your point about how things had to be so tied up, like, well, she's the villain. We got to kill the villain by the end of the season so we can move on. It's like, oh, that's a villain that you can keep going, because that's a villain that can affect all of this.
And see, I actually as soon leave all the other plots and get rid of her. Although I'm kind of sad to hear she's coming back, because I think they have so many irons going on that by bringing her back, they're bringing in the one that kind of were already working.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I could see that, but there's so much potential that they can do with her. You're actually going to see her with the eye patch, like he has in the comic, and you're going to, there's a lot of story they still can do. And it's going to be also interesting because with season 3, they're also bringing in Soldier Boy. Mm-hmm. And, it's going to be interesting to see if they had any interaction between the two of them, because he's their version of Captain America. And if she was a Nazi, it'd be like the Red Skull and Captain America type thing.
Yeah. It'll be interesting. It'll be, because I think that's a play on the World War II superheroes we always saw, right? Captain America versus Red Skull, all those. I think that's why they started the origin there, because a lot of comic books start there. So it'll be interesting to see what, is the true origin in World War II of the superheroes, in this world, because I'm sure it's very different than.
Well, yeah, I mean, they've kind of hinted about the whole Vought, storyline, almost like a Mangala kind of vibe to it. So,
yeah.
But I'm with you, Kelly. It's like for me, it's like, yeah, we can see her again because the actor is fantastic in the part, but it's like, okay, we've kind of done that. Okay, I don't want to see the Nazi anymore. Matter of fact, I mean, can we go back to I don't know what to call her character, but can we go back to Lady Magneto from Sage Grove Center, like Sydney, who had the power to just explode people and smash things, like who just got into a car and hitchhiked out, and we never saw her.
She's going to be back.
She'll
be back.
Yeah.
can that be the villain for season 3 rather than bringing back Snidely Whiplash Nazi with the mustache?
I'm looking forward to seeing Love Sausage come back. It'll be awesome. You know, and that's his name. I'm not making that up either.
Yeah.
Because it's real. There's some great characters they introduce.
Yeah, there's still a lot of characters in the comics.
And it's gonna be interesting to see. I expected the church storyline to carry into season 3.
Is good segue there, Mike, because I was just about to say,
Hey.
I think of the whole Church of the Collective, storyline in this season.
Is that in the graphic novels, that church?
No.
Okay.
That's completely made up. So
I'll start.
Yeah, of course. It's just it's a great take on the Church of Scientology. And
it's definitely playing on that.
Yeah, it's totally playing on that. And I thought they were going to be the big bads, truthfully.
Yeah.
And it didn't go anywhere where I thought that was going to go.
Well, and shout out to Goran. I'll get his last name wrong. Bishnovic. Who's been around for a long time and has always been fantastic. Going back to like when I first saw him in ER. But yeah, I think to your point, Kelly, I love the Church of the Collective, and I got to get a shout out to Chase Crawford, who I think really killed it this season as the Deep. I thought he was hilarious, and I thought the arc of his character and where he's trying to go, how he's genuinely trying to redeem himself. Yeah, it's for a selfish reason. He's trying to get back into the 7, but he is trying. He's just so incompetent. But
he is one of the most incompetent heroes out there. And it's sad because he's their version of Aquaman, who used to be the laughing joke of the DC universe anyway. And it was that scene with the whale. Oh my God!
Laugh out.
God.
Yeah.
And when Butcher ran the boat, Butcher ran the boat right through it, I was just like, "Oh, they did not go there." I was like, "Oh," and Judy was like, my wife was like, "What did they do to the poor whale?" It's like it wasn't real.
And great comic timing for Huey to just be sitting in the whale, just saying,
I'll be okay. Yeah, I'll be here.
What do I do? I'm sitting in the body of a broken whale that we just went into. I'm just going to sit here. There's nothing else for me to do right now. That was just perfect.
Yeah. So, Deep, it's an interesting character. And if you think about it, he went into the church for all the selfish reasons, like you guys said. And he was, he went through the whole thing with, they were trying to fix him up with a wife and everything. And the first, at the very end, when they pushed A-Train, you're back into the 7. And Deep says, "Me too. I can't wait." "Oh, I'm sorry, Deep. You're going to have to wait." And he went and he says, "Well, I'm out of here then." And he says, "And my wife gives horrible blowjobs." It was just like, that's all you thought of her for. And if you think about it, of course, who was the last person to see the head of the church before he died? The Deep. And everything. So guess who's going to probably get blamed for his murder?
Oh, man. Yeah.
Well, they've seen the head popping thing, so they've got a lot of visceral evidence.
And that was the timing on that, popping open the soda, poof, and his head just went. That was just awesome.
I think there's a lot that I hope they are not going to end up the whole church thing with this, because yes, Gurn was fantastic. I always love him too. And the whole Fresca thing that we're all going, what's the deal with Fresca?
Yeah.
I thought there was some kind of mind control with the Fresca.
Yeah, I thought
these files though, because that's where they got the file on Stormfront.
Oh, of course.
So it's like, what kind of information does the collective have?
Well, he was even saying to the senator at the end, he was on the phone with her before she popped his head. It was just like, I have more information if you need it, and I'd like to be your resource type thing. And I was like, okay, so they're going to be working in cahoots, and then all of a sudden he went pop, and you found out, that it was it was Negan or whatever you call her. Her name was Newman.
No, yeah, Victoria.
Yeah, it was Senator Newman who was the one popping everybody's heads. And if you notice, she has to be looking at the person for the heads to pop.
I didn't know that.
Well, because she was standing outside the gate.
She was open, but also if you go, I went back and watched the scene in the Senate hearing, the Senate hearing, and she was like staring at people and their heads were popping and everything.
I will have to rewatch that sequence.
Yeah.
And there was a couple times you couldn't tell, but there was like the one scene where you saw the guy's head pop and she's on the other side of it staring at that guy, and it was just like, whoa, this is just off the walls.
Is there a reality where the Deep's whole thing has been about getting back into the 7? Because for the Deep, it's that status. He's all about the status, maybe more than anybody on that team. Is there a world that now that the leader is dead, where he takes over the collective and finds his purpose? Now I know he's the screw up, but is this where he finds his newfound status? And this is his way to maybe get back at the 7. Does the show have the cojones to do that?
I don't think so.
Probably not. Although that would be funny. That would be very funny.
Being as the face of the collective, sure. I can even see Stan doing that. It's like I want to keep control over them too. So we'll stick you there as their face, and we'll manage the collective too. But yeah, I mean, I hope they don't get rid of it. I really do.
No, it would be really interesting to see what they do. It was interesting, the hallucinogenics and stuff, his conversation with his gills.
Oh yes, it's hilarious.
And it was great that it was Patton Oswalt as the voice of the gills.
Yes.
That's what.
Yeah.
It's like that was just perfect. And I love, Deep, your gills are showing, and it was just like, can you put those things away? It was just funny as heck.
Mm-hmm.
And they give a valid reason for some of that self-consciousness. Some of the same things we talked about with Homelander. A lot of the basis for his bad behavior was that sense of insecurity. So
exactly. And so I thought it'd be interesting to see if Deep took over the church, but I don't see it and everything. I don't think he's capable of it.
Mark, do you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I don't think he could take over church. Although that would be a very funny twist for sure if he did. Just seeing him stumble along and try to pretend. It kind of reminds me from Umbrella Academy. Whenever I forgot what number he is now, but he became a cult leader.
Oh yeah.
I mean, they got a spinoff coming, so if they could always twist that plot line a little bit and connect them somehow if they wanted to. I can't remember. I know it's got a religious connection, right? I forgot what that spinoff is.
The spinoff is the heroes at a university or something like that.
Oh, is it a university thing? Okay, never mind.
Kind of trying to do it like the X-Men type thing.
Yeah.
And that's right from the comics if they do it right.
Yeah, they have a parody of the X-Men. Very dark. Yeah. Their Professor X is not a good person.
No.
So we did touch a little bit on Lamplighter and Sage Grove a little bit.
That was some sick stuff that was going on there.
Sage Grove was pretty creepy, and the fact that of course Stormfront was so involved in a lot of that.
Mm-hmm. But it was interesting because with the, they were literally experimenting, giving people V, have their powers come out and to train them to be, heroes. And if they didn't want to be a hero, or if they, I want to go back to my mom and dad or whatever, they would kill them. Yeah. That's what Lamplighter was doing, was frying these people.
Getting rid of evidence.
Yeah, exactly. It was just sick.
Well, and Mike, you touched on it a little bit earlier, but just shouting out Sean. No, just not literally, but shouting out Sean Ashmore, who I think was fantastic in the part. I mean, we only get him, I think, like a couple of episodes, but just his arc and his resolution being, no, I was going to kill myself the whole time, which I didn't see coming. but made all the sense when I like, yeah, I should have seen that coming, because he is so tortured about what he's done and what he's had to do. And at the end of the day, I mean, just again, the sympathy of this was a guy who joined the Seven to truly be a hero, and what he ended up becoming just truly destroyed him. I thought in the few episodes he had, Sean did such a good job in portraying that. So yeah, just shout out to that performance.
Well,
I think he wanted to be better, but again, he's still a selfish person, so he did whatever would be the most selfish thing to do, not thinking about the greater good or anything, unfortunately.
well, exactly. And he, if you think about it, he is a second generation hero, because you remember when he was at the headquarters, he said, I wanted to show my dad, I wanted to show, all these, to live up to his reputation, and they took my statue down. He wanted to kill himself in front of his own statue.
Yeah.
He was erased.
He's very selfish.
Yeah, oh, God, yeah. And it was just like, oh, damn. And it was just like, okay, that again was a rushed moment. It felt like completely out of nowhere. He goes from sitting around the house and watching porn, yeah, and to all the
Huey was so painful.
Oh God, yes. And then and then them going to the headquarters, and him killing himself, but he was able to.
Corporate that leaves somebody in their system who's been out of circulation for how many years? I was kind of like, really?
It's not as unheard of as you might think, actually.
Sold it as an actor. He's like, ah! At least that was all right. At least it wasn't like, oh, okay. There was this sense of, I can't believe that worked. So.
Yeah. Wow, I'm still in the system. That's
cool. Friendship was so good. The way they interacted, I thought was really well done. And yeah, even though Sage Grove is gone, essentially, well, it's not gone, of course, but yes, I think we're going to see it. It was Sid. There's going to be a lot more from her, absolutely. And
she's too good of a character for them not to touch on.
Oh yeah,
yeah. It's amazing, and it shows that she might actually be somewhat human. She didn't kill the person who picked her up. At least you don't.
She's kind of unstable.
At least you don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's she could go either way, and that's the way they like their heroes. So.
Yeah. Subtlety, nuance, unlike what we have with the Nazi.
She's sort of like a dark adult version of Eleven from Stranger Things. Like just
yeah, very much so. Actually, that's a good way to put it.
So we touched a little bit on the whole Becca, Ryan, Butcher, Homelander thing a little bit, and we've kind of talked about how we felt Becca had to go. And with Ryan, of course, now he is essentially without parents. And being raised by the CIA. I've no doubt he's going to come back into play, but maybe not next season.
2 seasons at least. I want to see.
And he'll be grown.
Yeah.
No teasing.
Don't even go there. Do not even go there. Dude. No, because I know they have a 5-season arc planned for the whole series as of right now. Who knows what when they get there, what they'll do. But
he'll be the lead character in that high school version.
You know what? There you go. But he's only supposed to be like 10 or 11 years old or something like that. So I don't think he'd be at university. But and he's not under Vought either. So it's completely different. I don't think he's going to be he's not going to be another Homelander just because he had what his mom, instilled on him. He had part of the Kents basically, put into Superman.
Yeah.
Yeah. I never like coming up with the ideas, because that means like, if I can think of it, then, oh man, then it's not smart enough, because it's too simple. But I mean, it's almost one of those things where maybe he comes back in the final season to be the final thing that stops Homelander. I don't know when something. I feel like you don't send a character like that off and never see him again. So it's like, if he's going to come back, it has to be for a moment that is going to be really purposeful and meaningful. And maybe that's how they end the show, and we actually get a proper Homelander. Someone who's truly going to be representative of the true Superman type. So I don't know.
I think you make a good point to have in bringing up the one to end Homelander, because they really brought that point home a lot. That he was the person who could be created to end Homelander. They said that like 3 or 4 times.
Yeah. Oh, very much so. And they were hinting at that quite a bit, actually. That he was basically their ace in the hole to take out Homelander later. And that's why they didn't want Homelander to know about the kid. Because he's the first naturally born superhero, basically, and everything. Because all of them, the other ones are all lab created, as they like to say. And but it's interesting because in the comic, they do have a way to get rid of Homelander, like an insurance policy, but I'm not going to spoil. No. No.
I think we already know it's different. They've revealed enough that it's got to be different now.
It has to be, yeah.
So do you think his heat vision is more powerful than Homelander's? Because Homelander, shot her. I don't know if Homelander wasn't trying to shoot her full power, but it couldn't break her skin. And whereas, Ryan gets freaked out and shoots and fries her limbs off.
But Homelander seared through an airplane in first season.
Yeah, I think he was going gentle on her chest. Yeah. No, I think his heat vision is like a pure laser beam. It could, break through, like you said, Kelly. In the first season, he took out that airplane with his heat vision, and it also looked like he took out most of the soldiers in that cabin with his heat vision and everything. So yeah, I think his heat vision, the kid just didn't have any control over his, this is the first time it basically shot out and, he had no control over it. That's why he hit his mom. That's why he basically took off all 4 limbs of Stormfront,
And very emotional at the time too.
Oh God. Yeah. And that's what, they were saying something emotional is going to have to break out his powers and everything like that. So, and his mom was in danger.
So what do we think is Victoria Newman's agenda, since she took out heroes and villains?
Yeah, no idea.
Yeah,
no, you no idea.
I guess maybe she wants to be president. She wants to rule the world. I don't know what her deal is exactly.
She's actually a giant robot, and there's a little mouse trying to take over the world inside her head.
She's based on a character in the graphic novels, right? There's a senator, another guy, the gender switch, but he's very different though, right? He's more, does he even have powers in the comics? No. Okay.
Newman doesn't have powers in the. That's why it was a bit of a surprise when they pulled that off and they showed it was her, because I did not expect that to be her.
Yeah. I mean, I kept wondering, okay, who's the head popper? But
what should her supervillain name be? What would you call it?
But I agree. I think, they're going to go for the, get me to president kind of role for her. But still, even then, some of the choices like
to what end,
and things like that, why? I'm not sure how that was helpful to her, other than she's kind of like, oh, she survived. And
I don't know. I mean, it's weird, right? Because, I guess one thing I think about, I'm trying to think of her back. And since no one knows she has powers, she must either change her identity or she's actually a natural born super that's unknown, that wasn't documented. And then if that's the case, then, how does that affect her feelings towards Vought and everything? Could she be like a Magneto type character that she thinks they're the new super race for their own reason? Or is she just plain selfish and just wants to get power? I mean, it's tough to tell right now exactly, because she did such a good job, playing us. I think we thought she was sort of like a parody of a certain politician already exists, and we thought maybe it was just a joke at first, and then we're like, no, she's more important, and then now we're like, oh no, she's a very important character. So, I don't know.
Well, and then the specificity of Huey going to work for her, and I mean, because that has meaning, and that is done for a reason. So,
Oh,
so what is that connect? What is the importance of having him specifically be the one that works for her, and where can that go? So, I agree with the panel so far. I have no idea, but yeah, I'm interested to see what that's going to be something truly surprising because there's a lot of directions they can go, especially if Huey becomes like a disciple of hers or becomes someone who believes in her. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
yeah, there you have the still Huey for all his being in the Canary. He's still very idealistic, and especially now that he's connected with her. He's trying to do the right thing and get in, and do actually have an impact through more normal means.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
Yep.
of course, Huey's good at putting his feet into things.
Yeah. He'll probably be the one to uncover her. I don't think if he wasn't there, I bet she'd just get away. Like the boys would never figure it out, at least until she made her big move. I think, unless her cause is enough to make him want to go to her cause. It's kind of hard to tell.
Well, that's the thing. I'm interested in what he's going to have some conflict at some point, and I wonder if this is something that becomes that. Like the boys have now ended in this great place. There's going to have to now be something that splits them up, and
Well,
or and puts
Well,
it.
they already are split up,
Yeah.
Well,
sort of.
but
family and
but they're split up in in a good accord. It's like everyone's like it ended peacefully. Everyone's going off to their family. Happy ever after. So to
Right.
speak. But
they're all pardoned. They're all
Mhm,
Well, exactly. It'll be
mhm.
very
So what do
interesting
you
to
think
see.
is going to happen then in season 3?
Lots of people can die. It's gonna be
Yes.
gruesome deaths. I'm voting for that.
I think that's a guarantee.
Lots of new heroes. You're basically almost about I think you're going to start seeing basically Homelander more and more becoming unhinged.
Yeah.
I hope so.
I feel like I don't think he'll be. I just feel like they're going to save him as the big bad till season 5 or something. I think this is going to be long arc with him. So they'll have to introduce a lot of other bad guys. So
But that's the problem, though. I'm sorry, Mark. You were talking.
No, go ahead.
Well, I mean, it's like that's a problem because it's like Homelander is such like it's hard to have another villain in a movie when you have the Joker because the Joker casts such a shadow over everyone else, and Homelander, the character, and then Anthony Starr's performance is so hard to have another villain in there that's going to have any kind of real significant impact because you don't want to have them take away from what Homelander just naturally brings to the world and to the show. So that's going to be an interesting thing to see. Like, how do they bring in another villain? How do you take away from your greatest asset, which right now is Anthony Starr in that role?
Do you keep playing him as essentially the patsy? How many times can that happen?
Well, right now, he's basically under, has to keep a low profile because of Maeve. And because she has the video, that shows him on the airplane. And one of the things that keeps Homelander going is that he wants to be the big hero. He wants to be, the person everybody loves. And it's all ego driven. But, that's what drives him is that he's their Superman, basically. You saw how the people flock to him anywhere he ever goes. And as soon as that video comes out showing that, he basically dooms those people in the airplane to death, that's going to kill, any, thing for it. And, and that's what's going to that's what's holding him. That's how A-Train got back onto the team. That's how, Starlight gets back on the team. That's, and Maeve is pretty much you might see Maeve as the team leader in a lot of ways this next season.
I think that would be a good arc for him for next season. I think there's too many. I mean, I think in our own world we see evidence that is debunked for it was photo manipulated or it was this or something else happened. That accidents could happen. That drive gets wiped. That I think they could get away with that. But if they're smart, I think they should milk that through season 3.
I could see it milking it for 2 seasons,
Yeah.
and everything.
His arc now will be like, how can he eventually get his agency back in his mind and get control back again, and whether or not he'll break before that happens.
You're exactly,
Well, he's learned the power of marketing, so that's one
Yeah,
thing.
it's true.
You're
Yeah.
exactly right, because that's a great way for Soldier Boy to come in. Soldier Boy comes in, he's the new hero. He's the one that's taking all of the thunder now and saving the day. So Homelander's got to get that position back, and season 3 is about that.
Mm-hmm.
And we see how well Homelander stews on things and makes them worse. So
Yeah, Superman would get very jealous of Captain America if they existed in the same universe.
So what are our last kind of thoughts on this season, just in general, or overall?
I can't believe it's done already.
Oh, it's sad. I like. I like being able to binge it all at once. It's nice, but I also do like must see TV every week, because sometimes it's like, oh, I binge it, it's gone, and it's done, and it's hard to remember sometimes because you watch it so fast. It's nice to stew over something for a week and go, what are they going to do next? I don't know, and talk about it online or whatever. And the behind the scenes show I thought was very well done. I think that's the best behind the scenes show I've seen so far. Like, it's better than, I think, the Ready Room and what Walking Dead does, Talking Dead and stuff. I think it's got humor mixed in there and a little funny gag stuff. It kind of enriches the experience.
I didn't watch it, so now I might have to check it out.
Oh, you should. You should.
I actually liked it being a weekly show. I thought it added to it, and it made the suspense for each week. Oh my God, what's going to happen next? Type even more so, instead of, all right, let's go on to the next episode, and stuff. And I, they teased you with it because they put the first 3 episodes out there, and then they made you wait weekly after that. And then it was like on crack. Okay, I'm ready for it. Come on, let's get it.
I would have liked them to do the whole thing as 12 episodes. I think that would have been, that's the one problem with all these 10 episode blocks we've been seeing. I'm just, and this was even shorter
this was even 10, yeah.
I think the show would have been better served as a 12 episode show.
I agree.
Yeah, there's times the Netflix Marvel I love, but there have been times I'm like, they're kind of stretching it a bit with what the plot line I have. But this is like, oh, I wish we had more episodes.
Exactly, because the characters are so rich. And Kelly, you said a point earlier that's sticking with me, is my fear is that it's just going to keep getting bigger and bigger and more characters and more storylines. And we're going to kind of lose that specificity of focus that I think has made these first 2 seasons work so well. Because I think the bigger it gets, it's within these tight 8 episode packages, we're going to start losing things. And that's a fear. But if they can keep the focus on these core folks and their stories as they continue to expand and grow, I think it'll continue to be a great show.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed with it.
And who knows when we'll get it?
It's going to be a while. It is probably at least till the end, at the earliest, the end of 2021.
I haven't heard any noise about them shooting schedules or anything. So
especially because they film up in Toronto, so it's tough for them to get across the border and everything right now with everything going on, and now with the surges, so it's gonna be tough. And you know what? I'm gonna go here and listen to my Billy Joel song, so it'll be cool.
This guy.
All right. Well, for anything else that we want to tie up with?
I'm looking forward to it. It's been great. And if you guys want to hear more, you could actually listen to the Earth Station 1, episode 549. We just put out our Boys 2, season wrap up also. So we talk about it for a good hour, and, it's a lot of fun. You can find it up on ESO Network or up iTunes or Stitcher, wherever you find podcasts.
We're now at an hour and almost 15. But yes, this is our first during the year panel for the track, and hopefully we'll be doing a lot more. I think our next one is going to be a One True Pairing panel. So probably at the end of November, I'm thinking for that. We're going to do another live panel of that. We'll see how that one goes. And hopefully if anybody has suggestions for panels that we can do during the year, There's a lot of great shows coming out, even if we're getting them in bits and pieces. And also I think we're going to be covering some of the lesser known shows that we don't usually get time to do at Dragon Con because we only have so long. So we're going to try to pull in some of those shows, some of the Netflix foreign shows maybe that are really awesome, but don't get as much play because people aren't aware of them. So we're going to probably talk about some of those kind of shows too. So I want to thank my panelists here. Gentlemen, any other last minute words that you want to add on your sides?
Thanks for having us. It's been awesome.
Thank you.
Great.
And I love Almond Joy. I don't care what people say.
Almond Joy.
Hey, Papa Fresco when you can, y'all. It's been a good time.
All right, everybody. Thanks for being here with us. Bye-bye.
Bye.